Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today's topic is the COVID-19 vaccination. We have Dr. Abshai on the show, and he's going to talk about his experience dealing with the COVID-19 vaccinations. So get you something to drink and get you a snack and come on back. Dr. Abshire, welcome back to our show. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Yes, no, I want to thank you for coming back to be a guest on the show. I know sometimes you guys are really busy, and so I just really appreciate the guests just taking time out of their busy schedule. I know you're busy, and just just coming on the show and just sharing your expertise and giving just educating the community about whatever the topic is going to be, which is the COVID-19 vaccination.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so why don't we start off by you just introducing yourself, and we'll just go from there. Talk about a little bit about your medical background and so forth.
Yeah, I'm a internal medicine physician practicing here in Sacramento. I see a whole variety of gamut of patients from age 18 on up to 100. And a pretty broad spectrum of the entire population.
Okay.
And been here for 27 years, or actually, I guess I've been a physician for 30 years. So, yeah.
Nice. So what made you want to go in the field of medicine?
It's fascinating. You don't get bored. I used to be a chemical engineer
Yes.
in my prior life, and I got to looking around. It was a time when there was a slowdown in the economy way back in the early 80s. And so got to looking around, and medicine was a fascinating area and a chance to maybe help some people and do a little good in the world along the way.
Wow, nice. So how long did you actually how long was you a chemical engineer before you made the transition to in medical field?
6 years.
6 years. Wow.
Yeah. So it was a huge change.
Yeah.
Not a smart financial move.
Okay.
I'd have been better off financially if I'd have stayed as a chemical engineer.
Wow. So was there anything that when you became an engineer, was there anything you feel that drew you to being an engineer? And then I know you talked about the transition from there, but what caused you to want to be an engineer first and then pursue medicine instead of the other way around?
Well, coming out of high school, I was good at math and science, and I was just looking at areas of math and science, and biology at the time wasn't my key area of science interest, and I was interested in chemistry, which is where I started out, and wound up being a chemical engineer. And at the time I got through school the first time, I graduated from Purdue in 1980. I was burnt out on school, and I said, never again. I'm out to work now, and I'm done with education. And a few years later, I learned I should never say the words "never say never," because there was a slowdown in the economy, and I was working on huge projects. And with the slowdown in the economy, I was, fighting to buy a valve. And I'm, at the time I was thinking, is this what I want to do from here on out?
Yeah. So how long did you have to go to school to become an engineer?
I did, well, it was 4 years out of high school. And I got degrees, bachelor's degree in chemistry and a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering.
Okay, then you
I
was able
got
to
both
get
of
in.
those degrees in 4 years. So
Okay.
I was working like crazy to do that, and which was a very hard regimen to go through. And then medical school put that to shame.
Okay, wow. So how long so how long did you have to go to medical school become a doctor?
So medical school was 4 years.
Okay.
Then after that, 3 years of residency.
Wow.
Yeah, practicing. Yeah.
So that's like what 17, no, 15 years of education, schooling altogether, if I'm correct.
Well, if you call going through up to high school,
Wow, dang.
yeah, it'd be 23 years, something. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So do you enjoy school and learning and things like that?
I enjoy school. And, that's one good thing about, medicine is there's always new things coming along. And there's constantly continuing medical education that you gotta be doing along the way. So, you're learning, all along. So learning new stuff is fun.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. That's an interesting transition. I know when I was in college, I started out, my major was theater. And then quickly I learned, I want to be an actor. And then I decided I want to major in political science because decided, okay, I want to make a change in doing social justice. And then I'm like, that's not for me. Then I majored in criminal justice because I got attached to wanting to help people like youth that are at risk and things like that. So it's interesting how people change their field or change their study while in college, or even a job in your case, career, as they go on and work in that particular field. So that's interesting. So do you know any other family or friends who had because that's a pretty drastic change, you know,
Yeah, it's
from
huge. Yeah.
yeah. So do you know any other people that decide to make a huge career change like that?
Yeah, certainly a lot of people do. A lot of the physicians have done that. When I was in medical school, a good percentage of the people had done something other than pre-med majors. In fact, and I think it's still true, but it was certainly true at the time I went to medical school. The odds of getting into medical school were better if you did any other subject other than pre-med major. So
Yeah, so why is that?
the medical schools like people with a variety of backgrounds.
Okay.
And because they want a broad spectrum of people to interact, and when you're dealing with patients, there's advantage to having your own variety of life experiences. And when you've talked with people with variety of backgrounds, instead of everybody having the same background, you get a lot more pick up on some of their experiences in life. So our medical school had Olympic athletes, and they had musicians and
Wow.
foreign language majors, and there were other engineers. So huge number of people. There was a dentist in my medical class, and yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I have friends who are working in the medical field in terms of like RNs or surgical techs or just, and I know that some of them have um, went on to kind of like get certifications or certificate or completions, like for example, in other parts of the medical field, and then they would get a raise once they complete that certification, or certificate of completion, which is, I thought was really interesting, even though they're not really their main focus is not in that particular area, but they kind of still pay them extra money or whatever to go to take this extra class or get this certificate of completion. So yeah, I've never understood why that is, but I guess the way that you explained it to me makes
It's
sense.
good to have a variety of backgrounds. I tell young people if they're interested in trying to be a doctor, I tell them with undergraduate, do whatever major you want to do. Hopefully something that's fun for you. The key is you need to be good at it.
Yeah.
And so whether you're an English major or a trombone player or an engineer or whatever, you need to be good at it and try to stand out a little bit in your field. And it's good to have a variety of backgrounds. One thing they really liked about me is when I was undergraduate, I worked selling vacuum cleaners door to door.
Nice.
The school, they hadn't had a door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman in medical school before, so they were excited to have me.
Wow, very nice. And it's interesting too, because I like to hear people their how they start off before they actually get in their career. And sometimes, like you got people like you, so vacuum cleaners, you got some people who were servers or people who worked at McDonald's, and then they slowly but surely make that transition to their career choice.
I did that. I worked at Wendy's. I worked. My best job was probably when I was worked at a pizza restaurant. So I worked my way up from a dishwasher up to head pizza tosser.
Wow.
So I could spin the pizzas and catch them on my finger and have them spin around and do all that in the window. And so that was a fun job.
Yeah. Wow. So Dr. Abshire, so making that transition from being an engineer to working as a medical doctor, obviously that has some type of weight on your emotions, because now you're dealing with people's health, people's mental health, and just people's lives in general. So how did you prepare yourself mentally to deal with people? Because now you're dealing with people in a realm where your emotions is being involved. So how did you prepare for that transition, that emotional transition?
Well, one thing I kind of like in going to medical school, Marines for training to be fighters, they go to boot camp, which is a physical boot camp that they, struggles that they go through. I think of medical school and residency as kind of a mental boot camp. And you learn to kind of go through kind of the whole gamut of life experiences, and you rely on your mentors and your cohorts to help pick you up a bit and down times, and then you kind of learn your way through trying to look at things, I think, in a more positive way, which is kind of a big focus of where I've come around to today, is if we can really look at things with certain attitudes, attack problems in certain positive ways, you're going to do much better with whatever that problem might be.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to jump into the vaccine and what COVID-19 is, but I want to know when the pandemic started, because it started in another country and things like that. And I want to know how were you, or what were you doing as far as your medical team or just people you was in contact with that are in the medical field? What were you guys doing, and what was your thought when the pandemic was not here in the United States? Did you guys feel like, we better get prepared, or did you have a sense that things was gonna be the way that it is now dealing with COVID-19?
I did not think things were going to be like they were now. I thought it was going to be like maybe a very bad flu year.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of that in the past. There have been various years throughout our history where extremely bad flu years. 100,000 people die of the flu that year. Hospitals get filled up, and a lot of calls and that sort of thing. And so that's what I was thinking we were looking at, instead of a total shutdown of society like really what we've seen.
Wow. So as the pandemic started here in the United States, as COVID started growing and we started getting a lot of cases, how did it affect you and your work as things started to kind of spiral out of control, so to speak?
Well, initially it was kind of just a shutdown of everything.
Yeah.
So there's basically they put out a mandate shutting down businesses and encouraging people to isolate. And so early on, a year ago, is right about this time last year,
Yes.
it really all started hitting heavily with the shutdown and everything. So initially, the number of patients we would see in a day greatly went down, and we picked up on doing these Zoom video meetings and telephone meetings, FaceTime meetings with patients, so it's been tough and a big adjustment from that standpoint.
Wow. I'm curious to know, personally, did you have to, or did you do any any research or just anything to sharpen your medical knowledge on how to assist your patients with COVID-19 as they, start to come into office, or as people ask questions? Like, did you personally just kind of do more research and just try to prepare yourself to be a more effective medical professional?
Yeah, you just try to stay on top of whatever information is coming out. There was various updates that we get updated on through emails or whatever, or studies that are getting done and whatever. So you just have to kind of work to try to stay on top of things as best you can.
So can you just share a little bit about your experience treating your patients during the pandemic?
Yeah, well, I work really exclusively outpatient.
Okay.
And so the really sick people wound up in the hospital, where I had colleagues that would take care of them there. And so in our office facility itself, they would screen people, in fact, still do, trying, to come into the building, and I'm up on the third floor, and to get there, you got to go through, answer a series of questions that you're not having any symptoms, and they take your temperature to try to make sure you're not sick. So from that standpoint, people coming into the medical office, their chance of getting sick, coming into the medical office and seeing me, probably less than their chance of getting sick by going to the grocery store or their Walmart or wherever, just because they aren't screening people at the grocery store.
Okay, wow, interesting.
And then people that did have symptoms of COVID, we would treat with telehealth visits.
Okay, good. So
and oftentimes it was a matter of giving them advice and getting them worked through. There were drive-by places, clinic where people can drive by and get tested for COVID, to try to minimize exposure to medical personnel and that sort of thing, and just try to treat them at home as best you can.
Nice. So, how did you protect yourself while treating all these people? Like how did you? I mean, no washing the hands, but like, how did you protect yourself as well? Because I know even as people come in and dealing with people and things like that, you had to be extra cautious as well, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct. Well, every day I make a point of, I wash my hands, I don't know, 50 times a day or whatever between before or after patients. So constantly washing my hands. And again, people that come in to see me or, are getting screened, I'm screened myself before they come in. There was a mask mandate, of course, so, we're wearing masks when we see people. That's a little up to the debate on how efficient that is, but so kind of a variety of ways from that standpoint.
Yeah, because I know when the pandemic first started, I mean, it was like really, really high alert. Like, I mean, you go in grocery stores, there was a lack of products like toilet paper, paper towels, hand sanitizer, Lysol spray, wipes.
Yeah, it was crazy. It didn't make sense. Especially the toilet paper. I'm still scratching my head on that one. Everybody's still on all the toilet paper when diarrhea is not really the symptom. I understand. I understand Kleenex getting swiped off the shelves, but not toilet paper.
Yes, yeah, it was crazy. And so I found myself joining in, getting out there early or going to Costco on my lunch break and things like that, because there was nothing there. But it was like, seemed to be like really, really high alert on every single thing. I think people was paranoid, people were afraid to like go outside, like even in their backyards, just to get fresh air. Like it was pretty bad, and it seems like now things have loosened up a little bit, of course, a lot of businesses still closed. They still got wearing masks and other PPE equipment, but things seem to loosen up a little bit, do you feel that, and I don't know, I really don't know the answers to this. I think I do, but I'll get it from your perspective. Do you think that when people catch COVID, can they catch it again? Or is their immune system kind of, built up to it, so to speak?
Once you have COVID, at the time you get it, you really, if were successful at fighting it off, you really have 100% immunity at that point. And people's immunities will wane over time. It is possible to catch COVID a second time, but at this point, it's fortunately pretty rare. Last I looked, in the US, out of, I think we've had like 30 million people that have had COVID at this point. Last I looked, which was a few weeks ago, I think there were 5 documented cases in the US of people that have gotten COVID a second time.
Okay, wow.
So it's a real event, but it's pretty rare, and for most of our purposes, it's pretty much 100% that you've got immunity.
Okay, so let's get into the vaccine. So what is a vaccine and what does it do?
So the vaccine is to try to give your body a chance of developing immunity to the virus without actually getting the virus itself. So it's to expose your body to a part of the virus that your body develops an immune response to, antibodies to fight the virus if it does see the virus. And so when people are infected by the virus will come in and basically kind of take over the cell's mechanisms and make their protein, and that's what gets people sick. They get a bad inflammatory response to it. With the vaccines, the idea is to give your body a look at the protein that the virus makes without actually giving you the virus that actually takes over the cell and make you real sick.
So it's safe to say that from a medical perspective, it is best to get a vaccine or get vaccinated when we are in a situation like we are now. Is it safe to say that?
For sure.
Okay.
And so I think all of us, we all really have three choices as far as what we're going to be doing with the vaccine.
Okay.
We all want the fourth choice.
Okay.
The fourth choice doesn't exist in reality. The fourth choice is that you're not going to get the virus and you're not going to get sick and you don't have to worry about it. So we all really want that, but in reality, you have to stick with reality, and that one doesn't exist. So the first choice that I think people can make is to live their lives in seclusion. And I don't know if some of your listeners might remember Howard Hughes, the billionaire. That he was big in the developing the airline industry in this country. In his later years, he wound up being a germaphobe, and I think he wound up living in like a hotel penthouse somewhere, locked up and afraid to see anybody, and was basically kind of a tragic case, I think. And to me, that option is not really living, but that's one option that people can choose. The second option is to choose to get the vaccine. And the third option is to get the virus. So the virus is here, it's around, I think it's here, it's around to stay. We're seeing that there's mutations being made, kind of like what the flu does, and the flu's been around here for, hundreds, thousands of years, whatever. And it's here to stay, and it's always changing, it's always around. And it looks like this COVID virus is doing the same thing. So I don't think it's going away. So unless you get the vaccine or you're living your life like Howard Hughes, you're eventually the virus will catch up to you. I know people that were pretty extreme in terms of their safety. They were washing everything, double, wearing extra masks and sanitizing everything they touched, and really worked hard on trying to not get the virus, and lo and behold, they still got the virus. So I think sooner or later the virus will catch up to you if you don't get the vaccine. Now, with the COVID, the chances of the COVID virus killing you in this country is on the order of magnitude of about 1%. So maybe a 1 in 100 chance. I think for most of us, it's significantly less than that. It's probably 10 times less than that for most of the healthy people in this country. For people that are really at high risk, like somebody that's laid up in a nursing home bed, it'll be a higher risk. But let's call it on the order of a 1 in 100 chance that if you get the virus, that the virus will kill you. Now, if you get the vaccine, there is potential that people can get anaphylaxis with the vaccine, which is an extreme allergic reaction, which could potentially kill you from the vaccine. That is fortunately proving to be a pretty rare event. And I'm going to say, let's say it's 1 in 100,000. Truth is, it looks like the true numbers are probably closer to 1 in a million type of chance with of an anaphylaxis type reaction. But let's say it's 1 in 100,000. Well, if you're a poker player, it's kind of like, do you want to choose to get 10 cards or do you want to choose to get 1 card? So if you choose the virus, it's like choosing 1 card, and if you choose to get the vaccine, it's like choosing to get 10 cards, and your odds are just going to be way better with the vaccine. On top of that, for people with somebody who does have an anaphylaxis response, it's usually going to be right away. And, you know, when we give people vaccines, we monitor them for a bit to make sure that they aren't having a sudden severe reaction. And if they do, we can treat them. And so, to my knowledge, nobody's died of anaphylaxis from the vaccine in this country.
Okay. So what are the different types of vaccines for COVID?
Right now, there's 3 vaccines approved for emergency use authorization by the FDA. So 2 of those are the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines, which is a 2-shot vaccine. And those are kind of cutting edge technology vaccines that use mRNA technology. The third vaccine is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is a 1-shot vaccine, which was just recently approved. And it's an older type of vaccine technology that's using what they call a viral vector, or it's basically it's kind of a killed virus that won't make you sick, but it gives your body the protein that way.
Wow, interesting. So it seems like people probably will most likely want to get the third vaccine opposed to the first 2 that you named, I'm assuming.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. At this point, I think whatever vaccine somebody can get, I think I would recommend. I've had family members that have had both. Some have had the Pfizer vaccine, some have had the Moderna vaccine. I haven't had anybody get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine yet. I think I got one patient the other day, but I haven't gotten any feedback from them yet. But the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines will give you about 95% immunity.
Okay.
So, and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is more like 66% immunity, something like that.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's a difference in that. Certainly, I think somebody who has immune compromised or has other medical issues that would put them at higher risk of dying from COVID, it's probably best for them to get one of those 2-shot vaccines rather than the single shot.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yes. Somebody who has trouble with following up to get the second shot. So something like a homeless person, for instance, it might be best to get them the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, since it's just a 1-shot vaccine, and you don't have to worry about trying to track them down to get the second shot for them.
Interesting. I didn't do any research like that to even think of it like that, but that's good to know. I know that I've heard people can get like blood clots, heart attacks, and die after they get the vaccine. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. And guess what else? It's possible that people can get blood clots and heart attacks and die if they don't get the vaccine.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's true.
So and when they're testing the vaccine on people and giving the vaccine on people, well, we're starting off giving it to people that are elderly, geriatric patients, patients that are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And these are people, you know, if you give a vaccine to somebody that's 90 something years old, the odds that they're going to die within the next year or even in the next month are pretty high, whether you give them the vaccine or not.
Yeah.
And so in other words, they get the vaccine and then they have a blood clot or a heart attack and die, but did the vaccine cause them to have the blood clot and the heart attack? So really answer that question, you really have to look at large patient populations to see what's statistically significant. So to date, and they're tracking all of this, and to date, it's not statistically significant. So in other words, there's people that get heart attacks or blood clots, but it looks like that's something that if they didn't get the vaccine, they still would have gotten a heart attack and blood clot, and still had that tragedy regardless.
So what I'm hearing you say is either way it go, to the population, meaning the human race population, are at risk for blood clots, heart attacks, and so forth. So it's best to get vaccinated anyway, because you'll have a better chance with dealing with COVID-19. Exactly. Although there are some side effects that comes along with the vaccine.
Yeah, there's definitely side effects that come with the vaccine itself. Again, the key, the severe one would be anaphylaxis, where basically it's a severe allergic reaction. People's throats will swell up, and lips and things can swell, and people can die from their throat being closed off from an anaphylaxis reaction. So that's the severe potential side effect. And fortunately, like I mentioned, it's rare. It's going to be on the order of 1 in a million type of chance. There's lots of minor side effects with the vaccine, which are extremely common. And so I think everybody here has had a case of the flu or a bad cold at some point in their lives, and you get some little you get myalgias, aches, pains, you might get chills, low-grade fever, you might feel nauseous, achy, run down for a day or two after the vaccine. These are pretty common. And when I say pretty common, 10-20% of people will have something, a local site reaction. So you can have, pain, swelling, redness where you get the injection itself. So all of those side effects are pretty common, but those are still far much better than getting the virus itself.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. There's a lack of trust from the community in regards to getting vaccinated, because people don't necessarily trust the government, or whether it's a religious belief or whatever the case may be, people do not want to get vaccinated. And why? Because I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm glad that you're bringing this point up, because to me, you're speaking, look, you have a better chance to fight this virus off and things like that. But what would you say to the people who just, maybe uneducated about the vaccine? But what would you say to the people who has a lack of trust in regards to the vaccine?
That's a difficult question. There's people out there that get all sorts of ideas in their heads that they're getting chipped when somebody sticks a needle in their arm, and all of these sorts of things, which is just, that's just not happening. I think one thing to keep in mind, there is a large number of people involved in making, producing, distributing, studying these vaccines. These people, they aren't out to intend to hurt their fellow man. I certainly believe there's a few bad actors out there. We've certainly seen that throughout history. But fortunately, when you think of the millions and billions of people that have been on this planet, the number of real, truly bad, hideous actors out there that really want to do destruction to their fellow man is pretty small. And in the production of these vaccines, the drug companies, they're getting monitored. the people that work for the companies, they're wanting the company to be successful, but they don't want to have success at the thought of potentially, killing, doing harm to their fellow person. And there's plenty of people out there that I think would be whistleblowers, whether it's with the pharmaceutical company. You also have the FDA, the CDC checking these. So it's not just the private community with the pharmaceuticals, but it's also the government people oversighting them. But it's not just the government either, because it's the private sector individuals that are in the process of manufacturing. I was I think one of the plants that's doing the Pfizer vaccine, for instance, I think they have like 800 employees at their plant in Michigan, something like that. So it's a huge number of people, and you aren't going to have 800 people out there. And if they were really doing something that was, bad for people, you would find a whistleblower out of that number of people.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I mean, I'm hearing a lot of this, even at work or even amongst family members or friends, just, their lack of trust, for the government regarding getting vaccinated. So, I mean, that's good that you kind of highlighted that and painted that picture. And I hope when people watch this, that they think twice about, getting the vaccine, especially if it's going to be in their best interest, which is, it sounds like that's what it is.
Right. The other thing, and I don't want to get into a political standpoint, but we've got people in this country, both left and right. Well, I think one advantage is we've had both sides that have been working on wanting this vaccine out there. So we've had people on the right side that worked on developing and encouraging the people to get out there, and now we have people on the left side telling us to get out there and get vaccinated too. So in reality, if you think about it, we really have agreement of both sides, both left and right are in agreement that we should get vaccinated. So it's not just a one-sided.
I have a friend who I have a friend who she was actually scheduled to go get vaccinated, and she has a friend that is an RN who discouraged her from actually going to get vaccinated. I thought that was interesting, and she canceled her appointment.
I encourage everybody to get it. One exception, and it's okay for pregnant women to get the vaccine. So that's not a contraindication to getting the vaccine.
Okay.
Personally, my own belief is I would encourage a pregnant lady not to get the vaccine. And not that I think the vaccine would do her harm, but just in normal life, there are problems with the birth and life process that, there's, things happen to the baby. And I would hate for anybody to have it in the back of their mind that maybe there was something that they could have done or something that they did that caused this tragedy or the health problem for the baby. So from that standpoint, I think it's best for pregnant women to try not to put anything into their body that's other than healthy food. Don't put anything into their body just for clarity of mind down the road, just in case there is a problem with the baby.
That's a good point. Even what about like newborns? Like when the newborns come into the world?
Well, the vaccines right now are, and they're under emergency use authorization. which actually, when people have to go do the vaccine, they have to, read and sign a form or whatever. And on that form, it'll say something to the effect that these are not FDA authorized medicines, which is confusing because they're under emergency use authorization, which is not the typical authorization process. So some people are getting nervous when they read that language.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that they didn't even mess with putting that language in, because it is approved for, but it's just for emergency use authorization. And we're certainly there in the term of the emergency use on that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Ask me that question again.
No, I was
a little sidetracked there.
No, that was good. That was good information that you just brought out, because that could be a concern that it's not under FDA approved, whatever, opposed to the emergency. So, and that could be people concerned.
So, you were asking me about kids.
Yeah.
The vaccines. So the Pfizer vaccine was approved for people 16 and up. And the Moderna and the Johnson & Johnson were approved for people 18 and up.
Okay.
So at this point, none of them have had FDA, even emergency use authorization for under age 16. So now the other part of that is that the kids in school, their risk of dying from COVID is less than their risk of dying from the flu. And we deal with the flu every year. We've always had the flu around, and we deal with the flu every year, and we never shut school down for the flu. And so I think I'm very much in favor of the kids being in school. They're at no greater risk from COVID.
Interesting.
It's actually less of a risk.
I've not heard that. I've not heard that before. And the way that you put it is actually going to make me do my own, extensive research. Because going to school, people are thinking like, oh, you're more exposed. It's people are there and you touch things, or whatever the case may be. They really feel like I had one friend who she just refused to send her kids to school. She just, cause I think the school that her kids go to, they allowed them to go back 3 days a week. And she would, she was just like, no. So she is at home continuously homeschooling her kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame. Depression rates of young people have skyrocketed with this. And it was a study last year. 25% of young people had been contemplating suicide.
Wow.
Which to me is awful.
Yeah, and a lot of that too is a form of isolation from their peers. Because you got a lot of people who are at home who have very outgoing personality. They love to socialize. They love to get out there. And part of that helps them to cope, just day by day. And to take that away from them, I know it does weigh on their mental health. So it would make sense to me that, they're dealing with suicidal ideation.
Right.
Wow,
and fear, so what they've kind of used the society has used in a whole to try to get people to isolate and not come in contact with others is fear and social isolation. So people have been they've been scared. And I think a lot of the news press, the way they tweak and report things can make things a lot more scary than that otherwise might be. And then social isolation. So fear and social isolation are stressors on the body. And when you've got stressors on your body, if you do get sick, you're not going to be as good at fighting off the problem. If you've got fear and social isolation, you are more at risk for things like heart attack. You're more at risk for cancer. The social isolation is as bad for our health actually as cigarette smoking. And cigarette smoking contributes to 2 million deaths a year in this country. And you know, with the COVID, we're talking 500,000 maybe. So the fear and social isolation, I think, is really huge, and it's something we need to really work to overcome, which I think is a big reason really to encourage people to get vaccinated. Because I really think we were humans were meant to be social beings.
Yes.
That's the healthy state. And if we can get people vaccinated up and get people immunity, then hopefully we can go back to being social beings the way we were really meant to be again.
Yeah, that is so true. I know myself, I like to, 'cause I have opportunity to work from home or going to the office, and I really prefer to go in the office to get out the house, to be able to have that social connection, with my team. It's not a lot of people in the office, but at least I'm getting out of the house. And when I get a lunch break, I can go and get food or stop at the grocery store on my way from home. I really feel like my day is somewhat productive.
Yeah.
That's not being sitting in the house all day, because it does wear on you mentally.
Right. And the wearing the mask. Personally, I don't like wearing a mask, but wearing a mask is social isolation. So I was working in one of the flu clinics yesterday, and I saw several of my own patients that came in there, 5 or 10 of my own patients. And the bulk of them, I didn't recognize. These are people that I knew. And if they hadn't been wearing a mask, I would have recognized them immediately. And it wasn't until they started talking to me and I recognized their voice. But to me, it's a shame that you see somebody that you know and you can't recognize them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then not only can you not recognize them, but also hearing them, because sometimes talking through the mask, you can't always understand people. And I hear a lot of people like at restaurants or grocery stores, like the cashier saying, "Excuse me, what did you say?" Or, "Can you repeat your order?" or whatever,
Exactly.
It's that piece too. So,
right.
Hard to breathe in them. Yeah, it's just tough. But like you said, this COVID is not going anywhere soon. It will be here for a while. So it's just going to take some adjusting to get to, and we just got to do the best we can do to try to, make ourselves as comfortable as possible while we're going through this pandemic.
Right.
Yeah. I want to ask you, are you guys, the medical professional people, are you guys required to get vaccinated?
No, we're encouraged to,
Okay.
but not required.
Okay.
Most people are doing it. I do know people that aren't, which makes me scratch my head a bit. But I'm glad we live in a free society and people are allowed to make choices, but there are people that aren't. Myself, I actually had the virus.
Okay.
And so I'm confident of my immunity right now. And at some point down the road, I plan on getting the vaccine.
Okay. Okay, that's good. So I was going to ask you that okay, that's good to know. So what advice, we got like a minute left. What advice would you give people who are trying to decide which vaccine to get? What would you say to them?
whatever, at this point, whatever vaccine that's available to them, the first one that they can get available to them would be my answer.
Okay.
And so I would definitely do that. Again, the people that are at higher medical risk, I would try to get either the Pfizer or the Moderna, the 2-shot vaccine. And people that have trouble with following up, the 1-shot Johnson & Johnson would probably be better.
Okay. Okay. Well, Dr. Abshaya, for this particular segment, we are running out of time, or we've run out of time. And I do want to thank you for once again being a guest on our show. I know you're busy, but it is also good to have medical professionals like yourself come on the show and just hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, because you have obviously a vast understanding of what's going on, opposed to somebody like me or other people who do not work in the medical field. So thank you so much for taking the time out to just educate us. And I hope that people who watch this particular show do learn something from it and, decide to go get vaccinated so that they can keep themselves safe and other community members safe and their family members as safe as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And that's it today's for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed this particular show, if you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you would like a DVD copy of this particular show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.